Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into a real classic of American literature, F. Scott Fitzgerald's 1922 novel, The Beautiful and Damned.
That's right. A fascinating, sometimes tough read.
Definitely. So for our sources today, we've got excerpts from the novel itself, naturally, but also its introduction, some Fitzgerald biography stuff, and some really interesting literary criticism from back when it was first published.
Gives you a good picture of how it landed at the time.
Exactly. And our mission really is to unpack Anthony Patch and Gloria Gilbert, these incredibly complex characters. We want to explore Fitzgerald's take on wealth, dreams, the whole jazz age scene, and, how strangely their stories seem to echo Fitzgerald's own life.
It's quite striking, isn't it? This was his second novel, coming out just as the jazz age was really, well, hitting its stride, as the intro says. It gives this unique look into that whole greatest, gaudiest spree in American history.
Yeah, but also the cost, right? The cost of keeping up appearances, maintaining those dreams.
Precisely. It's a powerful and, frankly, often unsettling look at people who seem to have everything, but were, well, ultimately damned, just like the title says.
Okay, so let's dive into Anthony Patch first. To understand their fate, we got to understand him. We meet him in 1913. He's 25. And Fitzgerald describes him, it's interesting, as having theoretically acquired irony.
Right, like he's supposed to be worldly.
But he's kind of caught, isn't he? Between thinking he's maybe without honor and slightly mad, and believing he's thoroughly sophisticated.
Mm-hmm. And he's living off his income, which, he thinks is enough. His supposed big project, his raison d'etre, is writing essays on Renaissance popes.
Which feels aspirational at best, like something to say you're doing.
Exactly. It defines him by what he isn't really achieving, and this sets up that core conflict immediately. He's the heir to this huge fortune from his grandfather, Adam Patch, big-time philanthropist.
But Anthony himself, he's described as ineffectual and vaguely helpless. It's almost like he's inherited only the vast tradition of human failure. That's a brutal line.
It really is. And his daily routine just reinforces it. Woken up late, 9.3, by his servant, Bounds, spends time in his fancy bathroom looking at a picture of an actress, Hazel Dawn.
It's all very passive, isn't it? Just consuming, not producing, a world away from his grandfather.
Totally. And you mentioned the grandfather, Adam Patch. The contrast is key.
Anthony just dismisses him, calls him a prig, a bore, and something of a hypocrite.
Thinks his whole success is just down to, being obsessively punctual, keeping every engagement on the dot.
Yeah, and Anthony finds him uninteresting, basically, because the grandfather doesn't like the same stuff Anthony likes, like art and leisure.
It shows this real contempt for the hard work and discipline that actually created the wealth Anthony enjoys. It's a rejection of the foundation.
So what does that rejection mean for Anthony's own life, his own potential?
Well, it points to this deep dislike, maybe even fear, of actual effort or purpose. We see his background, Harvard, where he built this image, right? A romantic figure, a scholar, a recluse.
All image.
Pretty much. Then traveling in Rome, dallying with art and architecture, writing ghastly Italian sonnets.
Ghastly, yeah. It's not about finding a passion, it's about trying on identities.
Exactly. Performative dabbling.
Hmm.
And it fosters this vague melancholy, Fitzgerald says, that sticks with him. It's the sadness of potential just sitting there.
And his friends, Maury Noble and Richard Caramel, they almost seem like reflections of paths he could take but won't.
That's a great point. Maury's the cynic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Claims he's only moved by a lack of emotion. Says boredom is his motive.
Yeah, boredom. A frequent disguise for vitality.
Yeah.
That's quite a line for Maury.
It is. Then you've got Dick Caramel, the aspiring writer, working on The Demon Lover. He's the idealist.
Swallows writers whole, apparently.
Yeah.
Ideas, style, everything.
And they have this debate, don't they? About artistic intelligence. Dick says it's the talent to express.
But Anthony suggests, maybe talking about himself, that a man can know too much for his talent to express, which would make him inarticulate.
Bingo. Is Fitzgerald basically saying Anthony's smart enough to see possibilities, but too passive to something?
Yeah.
To actually act on them?
I think so. That line about knowing too much seems to nail Anthony's core problem. Potential, yes, but no drive, no savage passion, as the text mentions later about selling things.
It's that classic Fitzgerald theme, isn't it? Passivity born of privilege. Which brings us perfectly to Gloria Gilbert.
Oh, Gloria. If Anthony is aimless privilege, Gloria is what? The embodiment of jazz age glamour.
Pretty much. Fitzgerald doesn't just make her a character. She's practically a symbol of the era. The introduction connects her directly. The jazz age was beginning to hit its stride.
Right, the war was over, the economy was booming, the flappers were vamping, all that energy.
And Fitzgerald's famous line about America going on the greatest, gaudiest spree in history, Gloria feels like the face of that spree.
How does she personify it exactly?
Well, she's explicitly called a ragtime kid, a flapper, a jazz baby, and a baby vamp. Those words instantly signal youth, rebellion, a new kind of female allure.
And there's that weird kind of theatrical bit in the novel.
Oh yeah, where beauty itself is told it'll be disguised as a society girl. Susciety.
Huh. Yeah, love that spelling.
And later called a jazz baby, and will love it. And she's paid in love.
Paid in love. So her value, her identity is all tied up in being admired, being desired, like a performance.
Exactly. It's all about the reception she gets, which makes the glimpse into her family life even more stark.
Yeah, that description of her father, Mr. Gilbert, and his constant yes, 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 yes.
How it's conquered and broken her mother over 15 years, this quiet, soul-crushing domestic warfare.
It's quite chilling. Maybe a hint of what can happen even without the roaring 20s glamour.
Perhaps. A different kind of slow death. But Gloria's self-awareness is also really striking. She admits to having a streak of what you call cheapness.
Right. And she feels she belongs in a cheap cabaret where people just appreciate her on the surface.
Where these men would fall in love with me and admire me, whereas the clever men I meet would just analyze me.
What do you make of that fear of being analyzed?
It says a lot about her insecurity, I think. It's like a defense mechanism. She wants the easy admiration, not the deep look.
And she openly says she doesn't form judgments on things, doesn't know what anyone should do, that rootlessness. It's attractive at first, maybe, free-spirited.
Initially, perhaps.
Meh.
But it becomes a huge problem in the relationship, doesn't it? That lack of a moral anchor.
Totally. And her mother's comment later to Dick Caramel about Gloria being spoiled in this complete and unusual way.
Oh, that's suckled until she was 3, when she could probably have chewed sticks line.
Yes. It's darkly funny, but it really hits home how arrested her development seems. She expects the world to just cater to her.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the main event. The downward spiral of Anthony and Gloria. The beautiful and damned.
And what a spiral. It starts with all this fire, this passion, but Fitzgerald notes even between kisses, Anthony and this golden girl quarreled incessantly.
The seeds of conflict are there from the start.
And Gloria's diary entry about marrying Anthony. Wow. She lays out types of husbands, decides she must marry a lover.
Not a provider, not a partner in the traditional sense, but a lover.
And marriage itself has to be a performance, she says, not just background noise. She refuses to dedicate my life to posterity.
Surely one owes as much to the current generation as to one's unwanted children. That line is so telling.
It sets this incredibly high, maybe impossible standard for glamour and excitement in their life together.
It's so insightful from Fitzgerald even back then. This critique of aspiring to the image of happiness more than happiness itself. This performative idea of marriage, plus her wanting to be paid in love. It just screams self-absorption.
And it feeds right into that recurring Fitzgerald question. What's the real cost of keeping these kinds of dreams alive, especially when they're built on sand?
Exactly. And the wedding itself. It falls flat for Anthony, doesn't it?
Yeah, he just feels one gigantic aftermath. He's noticing the clergyman's inappropriately bourgeois teeth, already detached.
Total anticlimax. And it foreshadows everything.
Yeah.
Their early marriage has flashes, serene understanding, ecstasies of proprietorship.
But it decays fast. Sporadic hates, forgetfulnesses, recrimination. The dream of the gorgeous estate vanishes.
And they end up in that little gray house in Marietta just because their car broke down there.
A spontaneous decision that turns sour. It brings unhoped-for serenity for 5 minutes.
And then infinite dissension. Arguing about the car, the laundry, the mundane stuff starts to poison everything.
It's a perfect symbol for their whole relationship, really. And as the dream dies, they unravel.
Anthony hits the bottle harder and harder. He becomes intolerable now, except under the influence of liquor.
Bloodshot eyes, haggard, half unwell, just deteriorating.
And Gloria, who he worshipped, becomes capable of utter indifference towards him.
Chilling.
They argue about the meaninglessness of life. Gloria pushes him to find work, but he just doesn't have it in him. Not like Dick's drive or Maury's, whatever Maury has, poise. Cynicism, maybe? And Fitzgerald shows us Anthony's attempts, or lack thereof, at a career. It's almost painful to read. hoping for the inheritance, thinking about Bond's tedious suggestion, he calls it. Newspaper work, comedy writing.
He even tries selling those Heart Talks pamphlets.
Right. But he lacks the savage passion needed for selling. Even his writing attempts, like the Dictaphone of Fate, are framed with this sense of doomed optimism.
He just can't commit, can't follow through. It's pure passivity.
And Gloria tries too, doesn't she? With the movies. She goes to see Blockman, who's now black.
Yeah, but Hollywood hits her with the age thing. Tells her they need a younger woman for a part. Ouch.
Huge blow. That fear of losing her beauty, the one thing she felt never failed her, becomes really intense as she nears 29.
She wonders if the illusion of beauty could be preserved on film, after the reality had vanished. It's quite sad, really.
It's a moment of real vulnerability. The superficial world she embraced is turning on her, and their social life just tanks.
Friends start pulling away. Even Maury, with his philosophical musings on boredom and futility.
And Muriel King calls them out on the drinking, the escapades. Tells Gloria it's conspicuous because she's so pretty and well-known.
But Gloria just dismisses her so coolly. That self-absorption again, pushing everyone away.
Yeah. And somewhere in all this mess, Gloria has this moment, wondering what she's been preserving. Is it just memory or some profound concept of honor?
Her beauty, her main currency, she realizes it's temporary. And she makes that comment. A woman should be able to kiss a man beautifully without any desire to be either his wife or his mistress.
It shows this dissatisfaction, maybe, but also a kind of emotional distance she's developed.
Which contrasts sharply with Anthony's little affair with Dot.
Oh, Dot, the young Southern girl. She given exactly what Gloria doesn't. Uncomplicated adoration.
No sense of humor, but a happy disposition. Views his caresses as an inestimable boon.
He finds sweetness there, briefly, but even that becomes tedious, then almost intolerable as he worries about Gloria. Simple adoration isn't the answer either.
Nothing seems to be. And then, bam, World War I draft. The ultimate disruption.
Right, he tried to dodge it, bad blood pressure or something, but he gets sent to Camp Hooker.
Describes it as miserable, desperately tired, wrong shoes, preposterous incongruity of the officers.
And his return after the false armistice, when he goes all to see Gloria, it's described as ignominious.
Yeah, and seeing other soldiers with fake swagger pretending they'd been in France. It just adds to the sense of disillusionment. Even the war doesn't give him purpose.
None whatsoever. It's just another external event that fails to ignite anything within him, which leads to the final act, the lawsuit.
The fight for Adam Patch's inheritance, that endless spool of legal red tape.
Lasts 4.5 years. Fitzgerald writes how everyone involved testified and lied and ill-behaved generally in varying degrees of greed and desperation.
The money anxiety just corrodes everything that's left. Gloria says we haven't even that each other most of the time.
The pursuit of wealth becomes the final poison.
And that ending, it's just brutal. Anthony's breakdown after confronting Dot, shouting, throwing a chair.
Then finding him later, sorting stamps in his room, completely out of it.
And they tell him he's won. He's worth 30 million.
And he just acts like a pert child. Says, I'll tell my grandfather. Utterly detached from reality.
And the grandfather's secretary, Shuttleworth, kills himself over the verdict. Just devastating layers of tragedy.
It's such a stark answer to Fitzgerald's questions, isn't it? The cost of those flimsy dreams, the motivation for failure. Anthony longed for security, became incapable of mental adventure, and gets the ultimate financial security only when his mind is gone. He's a little crazy, as someone notes later, hollowed out.
So stepping back, what's the big takeaway here? This deep dive really highlights Fitzgerald's obsessions, doesn't it? Dreams, failure, love, tragedy.
Absolutely. And you see how incredibly personal it was? The introduction points it out clearly. Fitzgerald was Anthony, in a way. The literary wunderkind, the glamour couple with Zelda, living the high life at 24.
And then the crash. 14 years later, Fitzgerald hits rock bottom, alcoholism, Zelda's illness.
The novel felt like a running theme in Fitzgerald's psyche. A terrible prophecy he wrote himself.
And critics at the time, they saw the power, even if they had issues. Canby called Gloria frightening in her truth, even if Anthony was a nullity.
Right. And Canby warned people not to just count cocktails, but to see the subtler claims.
Though Fanny Butcher found it strained compared to This Side of Paradise, called that one sincerely callow. Interesting contrast.
Yeah, the reviews show they were wrestling with its ambition, its darkness. It wasn't just a sequel. It was a much tougher look at the jazz age.
Not just two people falling apart, but maybe a whole generation caught in that gaudiest spree and heading for a crash.
Exactly. Fitzgerald uses them to show how wealth and that relentless pursuit of glamour can just lead to
Yeah.
emptiness, self-destruction, broken, damned people.
Wow. Well, that was certainly an intense journey through the beautiful and damned, Anthony and Gloria. Their story from that initial dazzle to the final breakdown is such a potent, unsettling reflection of the Jazz Age's extremes.
And maybe a timeless warning, too, about chasing illusions.
Yeah, definitely feels relevant. It holds a mirror up to our own struggles with finding purpose, resisting superficiality.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, listening in. If Anthony and Gloria show the devastating cost of a life built on shaky dreams and lacking real purpose, what are the subtle ways we might be doing the same? When does seeking comfort, or maybe online validation, or just the appearance of success become its own kind of trap, leading us away from, genuine substance?
Hmm. Something to definitely chew on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it gave you plenty to think about. Until next time.